Hey, Com-100, Mike Eccles here. And of course, I'm speaking to all four Com-100 classes. It's now time, as some of you may have already done earlier today, this Monday, March 23rd, it's time to begin the semester. All right. Of course, a lot of you won't see this until Tuesday morning, which is when I said that I would go ahead and start handing out these assignments. And that's the way it's going to be from now on. Is Monday night, Tuesday morning, I'll post something. You'll have plenty of time to get it in, usually by Sunday evening, 11:59 p.m., or by Monday evening, depending on, for example, if it's Easter or something like that. But this is our new reality. I'm not expecting perfection. You're not going to get perfection from me because all the years since the fall of 1993, which was the first time I ever taught a class, I've never taught one online. So, and there's a lot of us at Bergen who are in the same boat. And there's a lot of you who took this class because you don't want to do it online. And that's understandable. But we also, none of us asked for the old coronavirus. So this is where we are. So let's go ahead and begin our first lesson online. Now, I'm going to be doing these videos every week, but they're not going to be very long. Because the last thing you want to do is sit and watch me on a video from YouTube, when there's probably a ton of other stuff you'd rather look on YouTube. I think my favorites are watching I love when drunk fans brawl at sporting events. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Anyway, but what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do this, and then there are assignments that are going to be attached to this email. And then you'll have to email me back. And that's how we're going to do the assignments, is by email. I know that some of you have worked with Moodle before. You have it with your other classes. I've never worked with Moodle before, and that's nothing personal. We have terrific people in our IT department. It's just that Moodle, when it first was introduced, didn't work well for the first year or so. There were like stories of professors having all the papers lost that students were handing in. They got lost in Moodle. And then if you happen to be on Moodle today, you might have seen that for a long time today, Moodle was moving extremely slow. So if we just do email, I think we're going to be okay. All right. So now, group communication. Now, you Tuesday, Thursday people, we already had one class and we talked about some of the different types of groups. But we're just going to go right into the assignment that's going to be for all four classes. And that is talking about some of the things that you do in a group. If you're in a group of between 4 and 7 people, which is the ideal numbers for a group, how you behave in that group reflects on how well you help that group to succeed. Because, see, every time you sit in a group, you are always naturally assuming certain behaviors. Even if you sit and you don't say a gosh darn word, you're naturally assuming a behavior, albeit a negative one because you're not saying anything. And what these all are called is we always naturally assume roles in groups. And what roles are, these are certain behaviors that you just naturally assume in a group to help to complete the task and to make that group successful. Or in the case of what you guys would have been doing, is finding a solution to a problem. Okay? And in your textbook, there are 3 pages which I've attached to this email. If it's the attachment that you get, I might have one of the pages copied twice, but there's only 3 pages that I wanted you to look at. And what they are is they list the different kind of roles that people can naturally assume in a group. For example, there are positive roles. Now, there's 2 types of positive roles. The first type is called group task roles. These are the roles that you naturally assume to help to complete a task at hand. For example, you could be an opinion seeker, someone who's actively seeking out the opinions of the other members of the groups. You could be an information giver, someone who provides information. You know, one of the things that we would have talked about is if you were to meet up with your groups, is to, of course, have been fully prepared with bringing information to the group setting. You could be a coordinator, okay? Someone who just steps up and coordinates. See, some groups can be assigned, but in most cases, especially in our group session when we do it in class, when I put you into groups, I don't assign anybody a certain role. People just naturally assume them, Okay. So task roles are some of the roles that I've just mentioned. There's also positive roles that are called social and maintenance roles. Okay. One, for example, is someone who's a supporter or encourager. Someone who gives positive reinforcement to the other members that, yeah, that's really good. You're doing a great job. Also, one is called the harmonizer. Someone who makes sure to mediate differences between, I mean, let's be honest. You're going to get people in a group who have opposing opinions. And sometimes people, if they have opposing opinions, will let that get out of hand and take it as if it's personal, instead of keeping the disagreement just to ideas. So a harmonizer will make sure to mediate those differences. So these are all positive roles. And as you see, whether it's group task or group social and maintenance, those are 20 positive roles that anyone could just naturally assume in a group. Unfortunately, when there's positive, there's also negative. And these are what we call dysfunctional roles. Okay. It could be someone who's a blocker, someone who just is going to disagree with everything that the group says, doesn't care, isn't going to listen to anything you say, doesn't even want to seek any middle ground. All right. And these are the type of people that sometimes you may have to work through. As a matter of fact, I talk about this sometimes once you get to what I call the real world, where you're working in a group, especially in your first workplace. You get your bachelor's degree after leaving Bergen. You go to another school, get your bachelor's degree, you get an entry-level position, you're working for like a year. Now you're starting to make your first real money, right? So you decide maybe to get your first apartment. Or maybe you go ahead and get your first car, all right? Yeah, you still have one of your parents sign off on the loan, but at least now you've got a steady job. You've got a good income. So you got things going for you. And then all of a sudden you get into a group at work with this person, and this person turns into this total dysfunctional role, like a blocker or a recognition seeker, and you just can't get up and quit that job. You've got car payments, you've got a lease that you just signed, you still got another 9 months in that apartment at least. You're not going anywhere. So now you have to sit in this group at work and work through this person. And you have to do everything you can to exhaust avenues of kindness in working through someone who assumes a dysfunctional role. So as you can see from the 3 pages that I've attached, there are all kinds of different roles. And as I say, you naturally assume. These aren't roles that you were told, all right, you 6 people in this group, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. No. They're just naturally assumed. A lot of it has to do with who you are, just what is in your nature. Okay? So now, with all that said, this is what I'm going to ask you to do. As you can see from the attachment, I have the assignment in the email. You are to write a 1 to 2 page paper where I want you to write down some of the different roles that you feel you've naturally assumed in groups in the past. Now, I want you to identify at least 5 positive roles, either all task, all social and maintenance, or a mix of both. Okay? I want you to identify at least 5 task or social and maintenance roles that you've assumed, that talk about the behaviors, talked about what it was you said, and what you did to help to have that group become successful. And then I want you to think about a group you've worked in the past, and at least one time you had to work through someone who naturally assumed a dysfunctional role. How did you work through that person? How did your group work together to either bring that person back into the fold or to try to complete the group task despite having this dysfunctional role? Now, it needs to be at least 1 to 2 pages, or at least 1 full page, half of a second page, that kind of thing. Type double space, no larger than a 12-point font. And that, of course, needs to be in my email box, by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. All right? So there's your first assignment. All right? You've got the 3 pages from the textbook, which has the roles. You also have your assignment sheet. And, of course, many of you, whether in high school, college, social groups, work groups, you've all had experience working in a group. So look at those behaviors, typical behaviors, and see if there's anything that, yeah, I've done that before, or yeah, I've assumed that role before, and go ahead and identify that. follow the assignment sheet, and I'll be looking for your papers on Sunday night. Also, don't forget, all those people who last gave their speech on the Friday before we left for spring break, over the next day or two, I'm going to be emailing you with your informative speech grades. All right, you guys, see that? Just a little over 10 minutes. Didn't want to go too long. And we'll see you next Monday night or Tuesday.